In this video that you're about to watch is a conversation between my CPA Borbala and my COO Salome Rojas. It is a conversation that we did for our community of career coaches, the career coaches community that is free for any career coach. So enjoy the conversation, because what you're about to watch is understanding small business finance and accounting for entrepreneurs, especially for career coaches. Because there's this phrase that Benjamin Franklin used to say, a penny saved is a penny earned. If you know how to save, paying taxes and how to organize your finances, you're going to be a way more profitable business. So check out the conversation and enjoy.
Thank you, Mari, for recording. We are, of course, going to share this recording with you guys later on, so you can revisit all of this amazing conversation that we're going to have. As always, we're definitely going to have a space for Q&A as we continue moving forward with the presentation. But in case that any of you has any specific questions as Borwell starts going through the topic, please feel free to write it in the group chat. That way we can address, your question, your concern right away without getting lost. But super excited to officially get started. We have been working with Borwell for around a year. It has officially been, and she has definitely changed the way that we look at our finances, the way that we plan for taxes, that we organize our QuickBooks. So it definitely has been a life changer. I'm super excited to introduce her to you guys, because I'm sure that as you start taking this topic even more serious, it's really important to have a professional advise you as you start moving forward with it. So Borwell, tell us a little bit more about you.
Usually I tell people I'm the most unconventional CPA that you will ever meet. I did not start out as a CPA. I started out in law school. I am really, I think, first and foremost, a business owner, just like you guys. So congratulations on having your own business. I think this is the greatest experiment. You learn so much, having to deal with clients, vendors, finances. And so I just love it. And I'm also mom of 4 little kids, and have a team of 10. I'm blessed to have the best people working with me, and we are changing. I can say we are changing a lot of lives. A lot of people who are really good at what they do, and we teach them some financial literacy. So it's a privilege. We love it.
That's amazing. And that's the good thing. Whenever you talk from business owner to business owner, it makes a lot more sense, right? To get everything finished. So I guess that let's get started. Share your screen. Let's start going through the presentation. Tell us a little bit more about what we can expect for today.
So it's a very jam-packed 20 slides, but I promise that if you have any questions, email me. We're going to go through some of the things. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. If you know a bunch of stuff that we're going to talk about, hey, kudos to you. The goal is to see where you are on the spectrum of not knowing anything, how you should deal with financial management of your coaching business, and you are you have all the stars, everything. So you don't know anything, and somewhere, maybe you guys are somewhere in the middle. There's always a reason to learn something, and maybe you're going to find out, hey, I'm doing most of the things correctly, or I learned some stuff. So that's the goal, just to see that basically best practices of what most of the coaches. I'm working mostly with professional service providers. I'm not doing restaurants, construction, lawyers, consultants, coaches are my clients. So I have more than a decade experience of what works for them, what questions they're asking me day in and day out. So let's dive in. The first question is basically rate yourself in these 3 areas: bookkeeping, record keeping. From 1 to 5, do you think that, just based on what you think this means, are you in 1, or 5 would be I think everything how it should be done, or 1, I'm really not doing anything in this area? So we're going to talk more about it, but just even if you want to put in the chat 3 numbers. 1 is, how do you think you're doing in bookkeeping, record keeping? How do you feel you understand your numbers, your key performance indicators? What do you think those are? Do you know how much money is in the bank account? We're gonna talk about more in detail, but just by seeing this, what do you think that you understand from 1 to 5? And are you proactive about your taxes? Oh no, I have not filed taxes for 10 years. And believe it or not, I still find people, even attorneys, contact me. Last client from California, it's I have not filed for 13 years. Or I have 23 filed. I'm proactive. I think I'm utilizing most of the tax strategies. Okay, I like what I'm seeing. Like somebody's using decimals. It's like this good. That's more than I expected. So ambush. Now look at this. This is what I call the continuum of where are you with bookkeeping. So if you look between 1 and 5, where 1 would be no records kept whatsoever, you don't know what numbers to give to your tax preparer on April 15th. 2, you have a spreadsheet, either in Excel or Google. You kind of list stuff, maybe people who paid you, expenses. 3 being, I did buy QuickBooks Online, that's the QBO. I even maybe connected bank accounts and credit cards, but then I forgot about it. So now when I log in, I don't know what to do. I have hundreds of transactions sitting in there. I don't know what to do, but I did buy QuickBooks. That's 3. 4, you are proactive, categorized bank feed monthly, at least monthly. You know what to do in QuickBooks. You watch maybe some videos, somebody showed you, and you are familiar with at least 1 or 2 financial statements that QuickBooks gives you. You've been looking at them. And 5, you know what? You understand what to do. You know you don't have time for it. So you do have a bookkeeper who keeps it up for you. And you review it with them or your accountant, tax accountant, at least quarterly. So where are we now thinking between 1 and 5 about bookkeeping? I see 2, I see 4. Wow, that's great. 4 is great. So categorize bank feed at least monthly, your familiar financial statements. Anybody else wants to give me their number? Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things about best practices for record keeping. This is, so we don't have time to talk about how to do bookkeeping here. Just wanted to bring your attention to these are the things that people who are proactive and they want, to do a good job, this is what they're doing. So they have a QuickBooks Online or Xero, I prefer QBO. I know a lot of people have Wave accounting or Xero especially if they're in Australia or outside of the US. The IRS got $80 billion in a budget in the last tax law change to hire 80,000 people, new auditors. And you know who they are going to audit the next few years? All these baby auditors, they're getting ready to go out and audit. It's basically smaller businesses, most of them Schedule Cs. So I would say, even if we did not really think about record keeping, like having receipts, in the last maybe 10 years, now we're talking about more and more of, let's have not just a bank statement, not just a credit card statement, but let's have actually receipts, copies of receipts. Now, my first point here is, if you have QuickBooks, you can attach a PDF of the receipt there, and you have it there forever. If you're audited in 3 years, it's like, hey, here are my receipts. And you know what? Also, nowadays, it used to be that the IRS said, come in with the string binder, bring all the receipts. Now, you know what they're asking? Your QBO login. So it's really worth to use QuickBooks. You're paying for it a huge amount. It's pretty expensive versus what used to be. And let's use it. We can attach these as invoices. We can, of course, keep the monthly bank and credit card statements. I hear all the time, Borbala, I have an online login. I have 8 years worth of bank statements there. I can get them anytime. What if your account gets hacked and the bank gives you a new account? They shut down your account and they open a new one for you. Are you still going to have PDFs of all the bank statements? No, I'm talking by experience. I have clients in this case. They were audited afterwards. They had to get 36 monthly statements with $35 each. And it took them a month. And he paid $1,000 just to get these little PDFs from the bank. So do yourself a favor, download them. At least make sure quarterly or by the tax time, download them, put them in a Dropbox, put them on a Google Drive, whatever, you're keeping your records. Call it 2024 bank statements, right? Now, if you have QuickBooks, again, check out what this means, but have your accounts reconciled. Reconciliation just means everything that's in QuickBooks is on the bank statement. There's nothing less or nothing more. Everything is just one time there. So we can rely on the financials, right? Now, I mentioned the auditors. Mileage app, if you're using mileage, if you're using any type of auto expenses, is a good idea. It kind of works like Tinder, use left and right swipe. If it's a business trip or a personal trip, it kind of works on your GPS on your phone. It is really like nowadays, like the mileage wise that we use, they say that if you're audited and the IRS doesn't allow your auto expenses, they're going to pay you back. They're going to pay whatever they're saying that, they are not accepting. So they are like IRS proof. So it's really good investment. It's like $5 a month. You can prepay, for a whole year for $20-$30. When it comes to payroll, and we're going to talk later about, do you have payroll or not? But if you do yourself a favor, don't try it but yourself. Get a payroll software. Like we really like Gusto. It works with QuickBooks. It has all the transfers, all the numbers from Gusto. Just go to QuickBooks automatically. You don't have to think about it. And use QuickBooks or your accounting software as much as you can. Use it to pay the contractors if you have some, to pay other people if you have international contractors. You can use now, actually Gusto pays them too. Just try to use technology and not like checks or people sending people Zelle, Cash App, Venmo. If you can, try not to use them. So you look more professional. Actually, you have track record. And the last one is, I use this a lot. Most of the things that we buy for a professional business or a coaching business, we get an emailed receipt. Now, I used to have more time, and I printed out the email in a PDF, and I went into my QuickBooks and attached the receipt to that expense line in QuickBooks. Nowadays, I don't have time. I'm sorry, I have to admit, I do have a sub account in my inbox that's called receipts. And every time I get a receipt from insurance, from this and that, I just drag that email in there. And I say, IRS, if you want to take a look at this, I will have my inbox forever. So I would just get all my receipts out from there. Of course, it's better if you do a PDF, attach it to QuickBooks, but at least just have them in one place, right? I failed to mention, we're going to have, after we are done with the bookkeeping best practices, we're going to have a Q&A. So if you have any questions, please just jot it down, put it in the chat. Salome will give us the questions after we are done with this whole bookkeeping and financial section before we go to taxes. Okay. So
Exactly.
Chart of accounts. Again, we do not have time to go into what's chart of accounts for now. You just know that how you call things, how you call expense categories on the tax return, on the financials, it's basically the list of those kind of chart of accounts. For example, what type and Salome, I don't know when we can send that Excel sample out to people,
Yes.
but basically, what type of expenses are we using? We have dues and subscriptions. We have software fees. We have website fees, right? We have so many things that business meals, maybe, right? Maybe business meals, auto, travel, conferences. List of these is basically what we have to say. Okay, I'm gonna look for these expense categories. I'm gonna add them up, and that will become my chart of account, my P&L. A lot of times it's good to brainstorm about these expense categories with somebody. I get still a lot of questions like, can I deduct my business meals? But of course, why wouldn't you? Every necessary expense for a business, ordinary and necessary, that's the definition of a business expense. Of course, if you go out with your coach, with a potential partner, potential client, current clients, of course you can deduct business meals. Or what about auto? What about my home office? Nobody can contest that you need heat and light in order to work. You need a phone. Like today, I talked to somebody from Spain, and she had a business tax return that showed to me, and there was no expenses whatsoever on it. It was just literally just the income, the 1099, and no expenses. I said, this CPA never asked you. I mean, everybody knows you need a phone to work from Spain. on international clients, and you know you need internet, right? So those categories, just brainstorm about them with your tax preparer or your CPA. Two main financial statements. P&L, you might hear this word. I work with a lot of attorneys and they feel really awkward not knowing what it means. Like, you don't have to feel awkward. There are no wrong questions in accounting. Profit and loss statement, also it's called income statement, is basically this Excel. If you try to open it, that Salome just posted in the chat. What is a P&L? Income minus expenses by categories, and the bottom line is profit, hopefully profit and not a loss, right? So that's the P&L. It's really very simple. It's like, that's the base of business. We get money in, we spend money, we call them, you know, whatever they are by categories, and then whatever is left in the bank account at the end of the month, that's the profit. Balance sheet is basically, what do we own? What's the bank balance? Let's say maybe we own a computer, we own, you know, some other little assets. And what do we owe? Maybe we have a credit card balance, maybe we have a SBA loan. And then on the bottom is equity. Now I could have put this as far as equity is how much your business is worth. So if we just know a little math, equity equals assets minus liabilities if we rearrange this equation here, which makes sense, right? My business is worth how many things I own minus what I owe. And the difference, the net, is basically how much my little business is worth. So these are the two statements. Now, the good news is that if you have a QuickBooks kept up to date, then literally there is just buttons that you push and QuickBooks gives you the most up-to-date financials. Even there is a way to push a button that gives you what's called management reports, that has a cover page, it's colorful, has a back page, as appendix. It's such a great thing to give to, like, if you're looking for a loan, business loan or otherwise, and they are asking you for year-to-date financials. If you have QuickBooks, you can push that button and it's like, hey, here's the 5 pages of beautiful financials, and bankers are just like, oh, okay, this person has their ducks in a row.
Well, I have a question for you. Now that we're talking about, of course, like the different statements. I see a lot of coaches that have these statements but don't really know what to look for in them. As they review it on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis. Tell us a little bit more about what that review process should look like. Of course, like after you pull out the statement itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great question. So I truly believe that accounting is just the language of business. Like all these numbers, they do give you a story, right? A story. Now, it does help if you have either, I mean, there's so many nonprofits even like that, all these retired former executive CFOs are helping young business owners, and you can sit down with them and say, what are those KPIs? What are those metrics? What are those numbers that I should be able to see after I'm looking at this, right? So it is really, it is really good to find those. Now, it could be different for most people, but there are some things that everybody has. For example, some of these metrics that I mentioned here. For example, first line on the P&L, how much money I collected each month. Now, if I look at that and it says 0 for January, 10,000 for February, 5,000 for March, 1,000 for April, I'm thinking, okay, this income is like going up and down. What do they have? What do they sell? It doesn't seem they have retained clients that they get income from every month. So maybe they're just run an event, run something that they sold something one month and they got lucky. But if I see, let's say $10,000 every month, plus minus a little bit, it's like, okay, they do have a good base of clients that they are getting paid from every month. If I see, for example, sometimes I see rent, they pay a little for a little shared office, and I see $200 expense, and then half of the year, nothing. It's like, okay, they either gave it up or they're not paying it. What's going on, right? If I see that contractors, what they pay to contractors is more than what they get in as revenue every month, it's like, oh, what's going on? you spend like more money on coaches versus then what comes in. Like, why are you paying them more? What's going on here, right? So in this example here, I just put in January, and this is a very, very simple P&L that I would say just think about 13 columns, 12 months plus total, and then this is the chart of accounts, right? These are all the like the very basic type of expenses that we measure. What does this tell me? It tells me that we have group coaching fees coming in 5,000, one-on-one 4,000, and we also sell digital products for $1,000. It tells me $300 is 3% of 10,000, so probably everybody pays via credit card. It tells me that 3,000 is 30% of the total income. So whatever comes in, 30,000, we're paying out to contractors, right? It tells me that we have a virtual assistant that's pretty cheap, most likely offshore. Okay, that's good. It tells me we are spending $5%, $500 of the total on advertising. So my question is, because some people ask me, is that good, Borbala? Is it good or not? You know, do you get more than $500 back, right? Like if you spend $500 to get even just half of these clients, $5,000 worth of clients, please do it every day, twice, right? It tells me that we have an auto. I don't know if it's an auto loan or a lease, but that's 5% of our 10,000 income. It tells me we do not have payroll. So most likely this is a Schedule C situation. It doesn't have a payroll for the owner or anybody else. It tells me that they are repaying accountants and lawyers. We have software that's about 3%. Okay, that's not too bad. We have some utilities and website maintenance. So also tells me that at the end of the day, this person in January from $10,000, the take home would be $3,820. Now that's pre-tax. So I'm thinking, okay, what is this person's budget? What is this client's budget? How much money do they need to take home after tax? So maybe this is like 3,000 after tax. Is that enough for their budget? And then usually as a CFO, I would say, they would tell me, Borbala, I really need 5,000 every month. Okay, what can we do? Is there anything we can cut here? Can you cut utilities? Can you cut software? Maybe not. Can you cut the rent? Maybe you can, right? Can you cut the accountant? Can you cut auto? Or how much money would it take to try to get more clients, right? Let's say we need 2,000 more clients. What is easier to increase? Group coaching, sell more group coaching, one-on-one, sell some more digital products, maybe even add another income line item for, let's say, commissions, that maybe we are selling somebody else's products too, and we can add to this. Like that, those are the stories and the questions this is asking me.
Which also tells you the power in categorizing everything, right? Like if at the end of the year you look back and you don't really remember how was it that you categorized yourself, then it's going to be really hard to make accurate decisions moving forward.
Absolutely. So all these questions, everything that we just talked about, could not happen if I start and this is like nothing in this column. They're like this, like no numbers, right? The good thing about QBO is, let's say this auto would be 5,000. I say, you know what? I'm pretty sure you're not spending 5,000 on 1 month. Maybe they just bought a car. That's why they categorized it. But I can ask questions. I can click on this in QuickBooks. That's what I like about it. I can click on it and say, oh, so maybe that should not be there. Maybe it was miscategorized. Everything can be changed, all these numbers. So maybe this software was actually bigger. This website maintenance should be software. So you can click on everything, you categorize, but if you don't tend to your QuickBooks, all those numbers that download from your bank feed, and they're just sitting there, what I was calling holding tank, it will be like this. Nothing will be in your P&L, in your financial statements at all. So that's why it's very important to keep up. Again, it's not, we don't have time today to talk about what are the best practices for actually just doing your own bookkeeping, but there's so many sources, websites, YouTube channels of like learning. A nonprofit, I teach a QuickBooks course. I just done a QuickBooks cohort for artists in April. Wow, that's I would say even harder than coaches. one musician and artist, and they learn stuff, right? So I would say if you know these or a variation of these 9 things that are listed, you are distinguishing yourself as like the top 1% of small business owners that really know what's going on in their business, right? Like, what's your ROI, return on investment on marketing? Are you just like paying that guy to post something and then I didn't get any clients from Instagram, right? Or like, what's going on? How much is a client's lifetime value to you? Right? If I'm a long-term client for like 5 years, I already gave you thousands and thousands of dollars, and something happens and I need more time from you or an extra service, you might be inclined to give it to me if you know I'm your #1 lifetime value client, right? Because I don't want to lose Borbala, because she already gave me $12,000 every year in the last 5 years. So she already gave me 60K type of stuff, right? Accounts receivable, like, does people owe you money? I have clients all the time who do not send an online invoice, do not collect the fees either before the services are completed, or they're not charged on like a credit card. And these people finish the coaching program and they never paid, right? Like, how much of that, if anything, hopefully not, do you have, right? What can you do not to have that next year? What can you implement? Like, it would say, sorry, we have a policy that credit card payment is due. I cannot start your session, because your credit card didn't go through, type of stuff. What is your revenue target? We mentioned that bottom line. If you're at 3,000, but you want to be at 5,000, what can you do about it? So again, these are just very, very simple, but like, when you think about it, is necessary questions, necessary in order to understand your business. I mentioned, like, some people, they do not know how much their revenue was last year, how much revenue they showed on the tax return. They just don't know. I said, that's really bad, because you should really know, am I at 100,000? Am I at 50,000? I just started last year. Maybe I'm 12,000, but you have to know the numbers. I really believe that where your focus is, that those areas of your business grow, right? Like, if you do take that, I should tell people, just Saturday morning while you're sipping your coffee, give yourself 20 minutes. Look at your QuickBooks, categorize the transactions, look at your financials, have a buddy of you, have a mentor. A lot of people, again, have from nonprofits or like Botero Consulting, they do have mentors, and you can look at your financials with them, right? And so that's about bookkeeping. Let's see how many questions we still have, if we have anything else before we go to taxes.
The chat, we don't have anything just yet, but any questions? This is the perfect moment to unmute yourself and ask your question to Borbala. Tell us how we can help. Of course, like, bookkeeping is a really dense type of subject, right? So this is your moment in case they want to know anything.
Yeah. Christina, you're muted.
Christina, are you asking a question? You're muted.
Yes, there we go. Is there a minimum amount of money that you recommend people make?
The minimal amount of money that I would recommend making is and this is line 3, the amount of monthly fixed expenses, right? So that would be like the bottom line minimum to be able to pay for the software and everything. And that's just to pay for business expenses. So I would say the minimum would be, in a perfect world, to keep the lights on. So you know how much fixed expenses do you have, all the subscriptions and fees and stuff like that. Plus, how much money you want to take home, if you know your home budget.
Right. No, my question was like, say you're a new business, right? And it's like, I don't know, 3,000 to run your business every month, and you're making 3,000. Like, that's kind of when you're saying, like, hey,
Yep.
Start then.
So I would say try to make as much as your business expenses plus how much you need to pay yourself.
But you establish how much you need to pay yourself first?
I would say you know the number even before you start your business, and how much you, of course, like, I want to pay myself $1 million. I would come from the angle of, hey, I need to pay my mortgage, I need to pay my car loan, I need to pay my student loan, and it adds up to this much, and that's my number. So basically, just like I have this amount of monthly fixed expenses for the business, I have a monthly fixed expense for my home budget. Now, if I have a spouse and the spouse says, you know what, Borbala, I know you just started your business. It's fine if you don't take home anything for 6 months, right? Then I would say, okay, so I need at least, maybe I even have some saved up that helps me for the first 3 months with my fixed business expenses. So I would say, how do I get enough clients and revenue to pay for my business expenses? Plus, tentatively, I grow to building up to a revenue stream that pays for my personal take home as well. But you know what? Here's the thing. When you start with zero, and if you say, oh yeah, I think what I need, Canva, this subscription, that subscription, it's like, say, $2,000. And I need to take home, I want to take home, that's another $2,000. So unless I know how to get $4,000 a month, day one, when I don't have any clients, unless I can figure it out, I will never start my business. What do you think the percentage of businesses would be started? 0. So it is great if you have the quote luxury that somebody can support you, or you have savings, that you don't have that pressure of taking home money from day one. But you just have to believe that you have all the tools. Again, I don't want to get into it, but all the tools that you're going to at least try to make money and see how it goes. But also there's an expectation. I see that all the time for I have the same business that makes, I have this client who makes, does lashes, daughter of a law firm owner. So we took her on as a, you know, extra little business. And she, after high school, she's like, I know how to do Instagram, this and that. First year, she made $60,000. Second year, she made 120 gross. I have another client, and that's Texas. I have another client here in Ohio, where I am, suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. And she comes in every year and she's like, I just want to make $800 a month. So when I see her numbers, 10,000, 15,000 a year, year after year, I'm trying to say, like, what if you put your expectations higher? You see, it's like somebody first year could make 60K and you are better than them. So that expectations, I would not discount it of where you put the bar.
And starting, you think start with a bookkeeper or start with a CPA or like a fractional CFO? Like which expense would you do first?
Most likely day one, all of them would be just out of most people's range if they have not money saved up. I would say I like when the owners do know something about it and try to do their own, even if they're outsourcing it later. They have such a knowledge that, like, if the bookkeeper is really good, really bad, it's like, no, that's not good. So, because it's very hard to get such a level of bookkeeper that's like, for sure, you don't have to supervise it. They don't know what they're doing. Most what I see, startup clients, they end up with a bookkeeper like 25, 30 bucks an hour. And then they bring their stuff or QuickBooks at your end. And I look at it and I'm so sorry, this is garbage. I cannot do your taxes. It's like, I paid so much money for this. I know, but did you know how to supervise it? Did anybody review this person's work? So that's why I like the full service accounting firms where they do have bookkeepers, but there's a CPA to review them. So somebody from Upwork, there's nothing wrong with that. And you could maybe out of 1 out of 5, you're lucky that you get a good one. But I have to tell you, most of them, if they're not part of a firm where there's somebody who reviews their work, and maybe you have a review with that person, I would say it's really not good work. So I really like if you do have time in the beginning, usually small business owners have more time than money. I would say there are just so many YouTube channels where you can learn a little bit about it. And usually your accounting is also less complicated. I had a client once who had 15 credit cards and 16 checking accounts, all connected to QuickBooks, and transferred money between them. So that was a disaster, right? But if you have one checking account, maybe one credit card, it should be simple enough that you kind of can figure it out. So I really like that version. Yeah.
Thank you, Christina. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just curious for someone who's starting. I look at this P&L sample that you just sent. It seemed pretty useful to me.
Yeah.
I do have a finance background.
Yeah.
And very used to that. Like this seemed simple enough for me to fill out. Like versus
QuickBooks.
going and getting QuickBooks
Yeah.
online.
Yeah, so definitely if you are on the spectrum where you have a sheet like this, you can even start using this, and you rewrite your expense categories. And every month, let's say if you have up to 30 lines on your bank statements, right? It's not that hard to go through them and say, okay, so my bank tells me how much is total deposits. So I kind of figure out, or maybe you do have this other software, coach software, where it's like, okay, this is how much I got from coaching. This is how much coaching, this and that. So you fill it out, or you know what? I'm just literally not going to use all these. I'm just going to put 10,000 here because that's what my bank statement says. And I don't even care. I really believe there is value in knowing where the money comes from, but let's say for tax purposes, it really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to put 10,000, and then 30, let's see, up to 30, 35 transactions. You have to say, okay, merchant fees, maybe merchant fees, they charge you each day. So you might have to say, okay, so I see a $3 charge plus a $4.50 plus 8, but you have to do this 30 times. That you're getting tired of it, and then let's see, I see $7.50 from the statements. So the downside is that you're going to leave something out, and then contractor again, oh, I see that I paid somebody $500 and I paid $7.50 and $235. So you have to like come back and do this manually.
All right.
But if you have 20 transactions, easy enough, right?
Yeah. Okay. I guess having this link to the bank account makes it easier. Because I guess my question was like, if I do get audited and I'm able to provide this and say, here's the bank statement that I'm matching these, that would be fine, right? But I do see your point of like, if I can have this link to my bank account, it saved me quite a bit of headache.
Yeah. And with the QBO, we did not mention that you can put so many rules in these days. So it has AI. So one time, like today, there's June 10th, and I go to BP for gas, right? You guys have BP gas stations everywhere. So if I tell QuickBooks that BP is gas one time, and please, this is a rule, and don't even show me any BP transactions because I know I'm not buying coffee there because I'm going for gas. Automatically, every BP memo that downloads from my bank feed will be called gas, and I don't even have to see it. The same with Canva, the same with bank fees. It's like, it's really quick because you're training AI / Intuit with where you go buy stuff and what is it is. But for example, if I go to Costco, I could never put in a rule for Costco because I can buy business food, maybe paper for my printer, I could buy furniture. So I have to be more, cognizant of that. But there are just so many things that are just repetitive, right?
Yeah.
So that's the downside. But again, if you're starting out and you have 10 transactions on your bank statement with your finance background, you can do this in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's making me realize I gotta stop using my personal credit card that gives me a lot of miles, and just use my business card. That way,
you know what? Open MX Open has business cards, and they just give it out usually like to every even new business, and that has points and stuff. So you can even do stuff if you have a dedicated business credit cards, and the IRS says or agrees that small businesses don't necessarily can get a business credit card. So if you just use a personal one, but separately just for business, don't commingle. Just if you have 2 credit cards, keep one for personal, the other one for business, and charge stuff on it and pay it off from the business. And as much as you can, don't commingle. I consider that as a business credit card for bookkeeping purposes.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Thanks for that.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay. Yes, please.
You said open an Amex card?
Oh, there's Open MX, it's called. It's basically like a charge card. You should pay it off at month end, but also that after a while they give you, like, you can keep balances there. So it's basically it's a credit card. It's called Open MX.
Okay.
Yeah. I see, like, even my business gets from our new clients offers for that left and right every day.
Got it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Spencer. What's your question?
Yeah, are you suggesting that we keep a receipt on top of the bank statements and credit card statements for each of those lines?
If you ask the IRS and you look into the IRS publications, the answer is yes. So if you're audited, just having a bank statement or credit card statement is not enough.
Perfect, thank you.
Now, it could be that, let's say it is let's say something, Zoom, right? Zoom subscription. I'm pretty sure they're not going to ask for the receipt. Or you can go into your Zoom account and download all your invoices, right? You can go into your Adobe, your, Gmail, and just download, or Amazon, even business Amazon, like, okay, this is what I bought. So there are places where you can go back. I have Constant Contact. I have MailChimp. I'm pretty sure it will not be questioned because it looks like it's a necessary expense. I'm not baking cupcakes. I'm a coaching business. So everybody knows I need Zoom, I need Adobe. Now the questions would be if I travel, right? Like if I have airline tickets, like, okay, who did you buy the airline tickets to? Why did you go there? Do you have a calendar where you wrote down, even online calendar, of like, why did you go there, right? Let's say I'm going for a CPA conference to Charleston, South Carolina next week. Like, I'm going to buy gas all the way driving down 11 hours, right? Like, why were you there? What happened? Did you keep the registration papers? Do you even have notes? Usually when I go to conferences, I try to keep notes. I'm giving so many conferences 3 years later. If I get audited, am I going to remember why I went there? Hopefully. But if it's like, if I do it a lot, I need notes, I need registrations of why I had to be there. The same thing, if you buy, technically with meals, business meals, you're supposed to record who did you have a business meal with and what was the purpose. Yeah, so especially business meals and travel, that's what they're interested in. And also coaching fees, like, was this live coaching or was this really your business? So I really try to keep as many PDFs of what they gave me and brochures. So in that case, I could substantiate this as a business expense. Does it answer your question, Spencer?
Thank you, yes.
So again, if you have any questions that you can think of later, put it in the chat or you can email me about this. So we have limited time to go through taxes. So we're going to just touch very basic stuff. Please do yourself a favor, read through this PowerPoint and also, rewatch the presentation. But here are a couple of big areas that we have to know about taxes. So some of you might not even have an LLC, right? Now, the good news, if you have an LLC in the US or you don't have an LLC, you have an LLC that you're the only owner of, or you don't have an LLC, the taxation is the same, unless you ask the IRS to tax you as an S Corp, which is going to be the next slide. So LLC or no LLC, you do not have a standalone business tax return. You have one page called Schedule C. Look into it. Last year, if you're 23, you already had a business, find Schedule C on your personal 1040 tax return. And what we mentioned at P&L, basically you're taxed on this, you are taxed on this bottom line. So if this is the bottom line for the year, 5612, that's what you're taxed on. You're never taxed on the 10,000 up here. You're never taxed on anything else on the bottom. So maximizing and not leaving any expenses out means that you're not overpaying your taxes. If you leave anything else, like, I don't want to look up my software subscriptions, whatever, I don't care, meaning you're not maximizing the deductions. You just leave stuff out that are valid business deductions. So you're paying more taxes than you know. So this P&L is very important. Everything, all the tax strategy, everything is based on P&L, financial statement. So do yourself a favor. I really, really, really encourage you to put a big emphasis on having good financial statements. So taxes once a year, Schedule C. If the bank is asking, do you have a separate standalone business tax return? No, I'm taxed on the Schedule C. Now, I just quickly mentioned if you have a partner in the LLC or otherwise in the business, which I don't think applies here, then you would be a partnership. Now, most people have heard of, oh no, I'm an S corp. Or when I asked, are you taxed as an S corp? No, I'm an LLC. Yeah, I don't want to get into the details. Read through this. I have like a separate total seminar about what S corp is. But with S corp, there is a separate standalone business tax return. You have to ask the IRS to tax you as a business, as a corporation, as a separate standalone business entity. It does not change your LLC. With the Secretary of State, you're still staying as an LLC. But this last point is, number 5, is where the tax savings is. If you do not have at least 50,000, 50 to 75K profit on in your business, don't even think about this. Just have it in the back of your mind. Oh yes, I will think about S corp election when I'm making 50 to 75K on the bottom line. Again, not the top line, the bottom line profit. So until then, you don't need S corp, you don't need payroll for yourself. You really cannot. Yeah, you cannot benefit from S corp. Yeah. I gotta note that we had a client who charged $10,000 software expense on her personal credit card and forgot to reimburse herself from your business bank account and just left it out tax time. We didn't deduct it as a business expense because it's just like, we didn't know it was not paid from her business checking, and she just like never even showed us the receipt. Just like, hey, I had something that I paid this big line item. So even if you have something that out of the ordinary, like usually coaching fees, some big ticket items, then you might charge on a personal card because you don't have a business card or not enough credit limit on it. Just do yourself a favor and give it to your bookkeeper, or try to give it to tax preparer so they incorporate it into your financials. So
just one quick question.
Yes,
are you saying
please.
The moment the bottom line is above 50,000, you should move to an S corp versus LLC?
I said when it's between 50 and 75K, we start talking about it.
Okay.
Now, if you know that you're going to be about 75K consistently, I think it would be good to then year elect S corp. If you sit down for an hour or two with your tax preparer, hopefully tax advisor, and they tell you exactly how much and how we're going to save money with it. I had clients where I presented this calculation. They said, Barbara, I don't want to start payroll. I have to have payroll software. For $3,000 savings this year, it's not worth for me. I had somebody's like, $3,000? Are you kidding me? I want to do it. Where do I sign? I can take my family on vacation for that, right? So that's when you really should consider it. And it might be that it's still not the right time, but at least you familiarize yourself and you know why you would do or not do. The worst thing is when people's like, oh, are you S corp? Yeah. Do you know what it comes with? Because every time you save money, you have to do something. You have to give something up. You have to do some extra work. And this person was not really, you did not have records, did not have bookkeeping. For example, you cannot be a good S corp not to get a red flag from the IRS if you don't have good financials, updated books. You just can't. And again, I don't want to get into why, but it's very dangerous. You're going to be audited. So I had a very good personal friend, and for the life of her, she's just like, she couldn't keep up with her QuickBooks, didn't want to outsource. Is like, I don't recommend. I recommend S corp for you. No, right? So maybe we can have a workshop once about S corps. So when do you have to start paying estimated taxes? It's basically if you start making money. Again, going back, do you have positive amounts on the bottom of the income statement, right? even then, if you have positive numbers, I would say it might be that you have a spouse who overpays their taxes. They have a W-2. So instead of getting a refund like usual, now that refund, potential refund, pays for your taxes. So at tax season, you still don't owe anything, right? You might have losses from previous years that you carried over from your business had losses last year, 10,000, and this year you have 10,000 profit. So the loss from last year offsets this year's profit. So literally and then we're going to touch it in a second, the only sure way of knowing how much you have to pay if somebody runs what's called a tax projection for you. Like this would be tax season. They're putting everything in a tax software, maybe even like H&R Block, online.com, or something like that. And you would put in numbers and see, like, if these are my final year-end numbers, then would I have to pay tax or not? Somebody's asking for S Corp. What do you suggest is a reason W2 salary versus distribution? Now, again, that's a big part of the 2-hour seminar on S Corps. The IRS says you have to get a reasonable salary. If you do too much salary, defeats the purpose of the S Corp tax savings. If you have too little salary and too much distribution, the IRS goes after you. So it's a very, very delicate balance. And again, I would not suggest if somebody cannot afford or does not want proactive tax advising, S Corp could be really dangerous. Yeah. I mentioned that what's called safe harbor is basically you're paying in what you owed last year times 110% this year. And then if you have to pay tax over that, you can pay that in tax season on April 15th without any additional penalties. But nobody wants a surprise. Like, it's not just about I have to pay penalties on not paying estimated taxes, but you really have to know, right? The estimates might be like, okay, I paid something, but I still, like, before this call, I talked to somebody and they said, no, we owe $30,000 and we thought we were going to get a refund. It's like, that should not happen. That should not happen. But the only way it doesn't happen, if you have clean QuickBooks, you look at the P&L, you see if you have a spouse, what other things go into your personal tax return, and run tax projections. I wanted to mention sales tax just for 10 seconds, because usually coaching fees are not sales taxable, but if you sell digital products, if you sell books, if you sell t-shirts, anything else, it might be sales taxable. So you do yourself a favor and look on your state's website. Do you need a vendor's license? Do you need to start charging sales tax on that book you're selling for $7 or on that ebook, right? And on the payroll taxes, if it comes to it, that you have a payroll, do yourself a favor, get a full service payroll software that takes care of all the filing. I've seen tens of thousands of dollars or penalties when somebody said, no, I can just file my own on each of the website. No, there are like 5 different agencies. The payroll software files each month, each quarter. Don't try to do it yourself, right? Get one. That's why we like Gusto, because it works with QuickBooks, and have your accountant connect the Gusto to QuickBooks. This one I mentioned, how do I know if somebody's still a contractor or a W-2er? You can find a lot of information about this online. And just know, read these 3 items that I really feel that everybody who has independent contractors should do. This is another area where the IRS is doing audits and will be a more contentious issue in the future for sure. Somebody says, would I recommend paying less estimated tax and instead putting money in a high yield savings account so they get interest? Yes, absolutely. But if the IRS's interest rates for penalties and interest rates also increased, so if you just keep the money in there, it's good because you have access to it. Push comes to shove, if you need for something, I would just rather have access to my money, even if I have to pay a little penalty at your end for not paying enough estimates. But the IRS is higher interest rates too. So it's a delicate balance of how much you pay in or not. And overseas contractors, great question. Yes, the overseas would sign W-9 BEN. There's a form, you can Google it, W-9 BEN. Yeah. Read through this. How do you use your CPA? Meet them regularly. Find somebody who's not answering in one-word sentences. You ask them 3 questions, they answer in 1-word sentences. I will not get any advising out of this guy. I have to find somebody new. So do yourself a favor, find somebody that really gets to know your situation, that knows your type of business. There are a lot of CPAs that concentrate on coaches, on internet businesses, and use to talk to them all the time. Ask them if they don't offer, like, how much would it be if I could talk to you, not just prepare my taxes, but actually pick your brain and be my advisor, right? Okay, we're not going to talk about commonly used tax strategies. There are just some of it. Some of them, they are really like we are using all the time, but your proactive tax strategies could show you, them. So somebody says, what about an operating loss? Many times in the beginning, you break even. Many times, yes. So in the beginning, if you break even, then you don't have to pay estimated taxes for sure, right? That's why, again, just going back to the P&L, if you break even, you'd have to worry about it. If you have extra money sitting in the account, you take it home. Like, just make sure that you fill out the P&L, QuickBooks or otherwise. Yeah, and that's fine. That's not a red flag. The IRS says if you have losses for 3 or more years out of 5 years, that starts to be suspicious, right? Because, like, how can they afford just to have losses? Again, I'm not talking about $1,000 loss. I'm talking more like hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars loss. Like, do they get a loan? Like, how can they afford this, right? So make sure, even if you for the first 3 years you have a loss, then you try to make a profit, right? If you're at 0, it's fine. Just make sure that it's not exactly 0, right? It's not exactly 0, because that would look a little suspicious. If you do your own taxes and use round numbers, also like accounting fees, 500, office expenses, 300. Like, if everything is just a round number, I don't think the AI likes that either. Because, like, what are the chances that those are like legitimate numbers? Any other questions?
We have one other question in the group chat from Bogdan. What's the penalty for not paying enough estimated tax?
Yes. So the first year when you start your business, it's nothing. So I said, if this is the first year, it's fine. You can pay the taxes in tax season without a penalty, but again, you're still going to have a surprise. So that's why I don't like it. Other than that, you can look it up. You can Google it. It's basically, there's interest and penalties. Could be, I think, for even 8-10%. So it's not like hundreds of dollars, but I have clients who say, like, Barbara, I don't want to pay even $20 extra to the IRS. But some people was like, oh, $20, whatever, I don't care. I'm not gonna make estimated taxes for like even $100. But it could be a couple of hundred, depending on how much you owe. That's what it's based on. Do you recommend we deduct expenses that are shared personal and business, like cell phone? Oh, great question. So in the US, we just have to document, like, okay, my cell phone is $115 a month. So I'm thinking, I don't have any kids. Let's say I'm just working all the time. I barely make any personal calls. So I determine, and I write this down in documents, that I think 90% of my cell phone usage is business. So I said 115 times 90%. What is that for a month? Times 12 months. That's the number I will deduct, right? And the car, the same thing. With the car, you can do mileage, just business mileage. So there's IRS has this mileage rate, or the actual expenses. Again, you still have to do the mileage, right? That's why I like the mileage apps, because the business usage comes from the mileage. So for example, if I drive 10 miles on average every day, 6 for business and 4 for personal, that I would say, I think that's like, it's a good percentage across the board. I'm gonna say 60% business. So everything that I spend on my car, 60% of it, I will deduct it. Yeah, so you have to just insurance, everything else, like, just have to do the same thing. It is better to do a monthly stipend versus usage. You have to calculate which one is better and go for the one that is better. Now with the car, after you choose one for that car, you have to keep it up. Yeah, it's so that's why I like keeping the mileage anyways, because you might end up using on your taxes the mileage route or the actual expenses. And most likely you won't know which one is better before the end of the year. So just keep both and then, I'll decide later. How far back can we go with deducting expenses? We bought a laptop 2 years ago. So if this is the first year you're starting your business, that's kind of legally the only year you're allowed to kind of quote bring in assets into the business. So even if you bought it 2 years ago, you can deduct it this year because this is the year I started the business. After the first year, it's literally what you buy that calendar year, that's what counts. So that's why, like, don't forget to deduct something in the year that we are buying it in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Borvala. We are a few minutes past. Want to be super, super respectful of your time and everyone's. Any last minute questions before we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Not really?
If you have any questions, just email me if you have any follow-up questions. I would say don't feel intimidated. Usually coaches say and artists tell me, Borbala, when you start talking about numbers, I just shut down. I don't understand. I'm just, it's don't feel intimidated. Even small steps, doing the right thing just in one area, one step at a time, you're doing so much better. Even thinking about it, even being here on this workshop is so much better than just like, hey, I don't care till April 13th. So I congratulate you, and just, one step at a time. And also listen to everybody, what they're saying. Don't believe necessarily everything you hear. I hear crazy stuff every year. So please go and double check. A lot of places where there are nonprofits, there's one locally, but I know the SBA is sponsoring them all around the country, called Women Business Center. And they have like literally professionals like me, pro bono, helping people out, startup business people. So just look at somebody where I was 12 years ago starting out. I came from a Big 4 accounting firm, starting my business. I took everybody on. I would say that's a great find. If you can find somebody like that who's working out of their basement, they're still new, but they know everything. They just want clients. Can find somebody like they have time to sit down with you and teach you. That would be the best. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so
Good
much for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Of course. So as you guys know, we will for sure share the recording of this session. There you have her email in case you happen to have any questions or you're looking for further, consultation. As I said, she has been working with us for around a year now, and it definitely has been a game changer for the way that we tax plan, the way that we plan our finance strategy, which of course are really, really important things to do if you're looking to scale your business moving forward. So, if that's about it for the day, I just want to thank you, Pearl, for coming and sharing a little bit about your knowledge with us. And to the rest of our community members, thank you all for joining. If you continue enjoying events like this, please remember to let us know, like any additional feedback. If you would like to see one specific topic, we're always open to listen and continue bringing this amazing guests that are, of course, going to be really, really valuable to all of you. So yeah, looking forward to seeing all of you in further workshops. With nothing more to say, have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you all for coming.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.